What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here to do it's my 2019 Under the Scope draft video. So as you guys know, for the past few weeks and the next couple weeks, I've been doing more in-depth analysis of the 2016 through the 2021 drafts. So like the last 6 drafts, I wanted to do a little bit more in-depth analysis and whatnot. So I've been doing that. I am getting ready to do that here for you now. Today is my 2019. I did my 2018 last week, so 2019 is this week, so we're about to jump into that. Before I do jump into it though, I do want to start off with a little bit of background information, because I've been a Dolphins fan now for 20 plus 20-ish years. Since I was about 10, 12-ish is when I first started watching football, etc. But it's only been like the past, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, or I guess really since like 2015, no, maybe even a little before that, maybe like 2013. So like 7, 8 years now, I've been getting, a lot more involved with the Dolphins. So really learning the Dolphins organization, the team, the coaches, the players, etc., 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 expanding my knowledge on my team, right? Now, over the past few years, the past like 3 or 4 years, I've started to expand. I'm always trying to grow and evolve and, expand upon my knowledge, my skill set, etc., etc. So over the past few years, the past 3 or 4 years, I've been trying to expand my knowledge on, the other AFC East teams. I'm learning more about our division rivals, right? Players, personnel, and so on and so forth, how they like to do things. I'm expanding my knowledge to the rest of the NFL and learning more about that. That also applies to, college players, draft prospects, and so on and so forth. So, I want to make it clear that I am by no means an expert in these areas. I think I've done a pretty decent job so far at being able to identify, the better prospects and how to be more efficient when it comes to like prioritizing in the draft. I think if you go back and look at my past 3 years, the videos that I've made, you will see that I've done what I believe to be a better job overall at handling this situation, the players that I've liked and so on and so forth. Now, to be clear, again, I'm not an expert. I've just started dipping my feet into this realm, over the past couple years, and I'm getting more, this year I'm going to get even more in depth into it. But even at this point, I'd want to make it clear that, and, going into this upcoming draft period, this upcoming March or April rather, I don't have, unfortunately, things like, the all 22 from college. I'll probably, look, the college season is basically over, right? So, next year I'll try and get more into actually watching games. I watched a little bit this year, but not very much. Certainly not as much as I probably should if I want to be in this. So, next year I'll make it a point to do that. But the point I'm getting to is I don't really have, and I never actually played football for my school or anything like that. I just played a lot of backyard football and neighborhood football with my friends or whatever. I was never, a scout or a talent evaluator. I was never a coach, nothing like that. So there's a lot about the X's and O's and techniques and stuff that I'm still learning, as time goes on and trying to upload into my brain, right? So I just want to make it clear I'm by no means an expert, and I have to rely heavily on, the highlight reels and whatever I can find on the internet as far as tape goes and film goes, and, the various different scouting reports from the analysts and the evaluators. Now, I try and take in as much information as I can. I don't just choose ESPN, for example, and run with theirs. I read and look through all of these different ones and try and make up my mind to the best of my ability. Anyway, I wanted to make sure to let you guys know all this because I want to make it clear that I'm by no means an expert, but I'm not going to claim to be an expert because I'm not. but I am actively trying to get better and better at these things and more involved in these things, in these areas, so I can improve upon myself, my channel, and, you know, grow as a football mind, etc., etc. So I am doing these things, and I am going to get even more involved this off season. I'm going to do, you know, more in-depth you know, analysis and stuff like that. I'm going to actually like comb through as much information as I can. I'm going to do, you know, by position group, I'll go through and I'll, you know, try and get my top prospects, etc., etc. So we'll get to all of that, but I wanted to make that clear. The other thing is I wanted to note though that the 2019 draft, this is the first draft where I actually started to, you know, look into prospects a little bit on my own, and actually started to have, you know, somewhat of an opinion outside of just the casual fan who, you know, like back when in the Devontae Parker draft, I wanted Parker, but that was just because, you know, I watched a couple highlight reels from a couple different players and I was like, ooh, he's shiny, I want him, right? That's kind of a casual take. I'm trying to be a lot more involved and more in depth now at this point. So, but you know, the 2019 draft was the first draft where I actually really had like an opinion of my own as far as prioritizing and who I would take and so on and so forth. So having said all of that, let's actually go ahead now and jump right into it. Before I do this though, I do want to just quickly pull up my draft grades. So this is the 2019 draft so far. Now the Michael Deiter one, I haven't updated it in a minute, but it is, I think, fair enough to at least raise him to a D on the grade, although he still has a long way to go in his development and a lot to prove. It took 3 years for them to finally even find a home for him, and I'm still not even convinced that he's even all that great yet, right? Because this offensive line sucks, and he's one of the pieces that could potentially be salvageable. So I would say that there is an argument to, and matter of fact, I'll even go ahead and I'll upgrade him to a D right now to be nice and whatever, but he still has a long way to go. Christian Wilkins still a B, although he's working his way up as of right now, and we'll get into this a little bit more. I didn't want to take him in the first round. I would have taken, you possibly could have even got him in the second round. I would have done this draft different. In fact, I would have done all the past 3 drafts different, but instead of trading for Josh Rosen, because I never liked the Josh Rosen trade, I would have kept that second round pick from 2019 and the 5th round pick from 2020. Instead, especially since there was a run on defensive linemen in the first round of the 2019 draft, I would have taken, if I remember correctly, the player that I would have taken at the time was Garrett Bradbury. But, you know, over the past few drafts, and I get a little mixed up on who comes from which draft because there have been so many, but you look at guys like him or Tristan Wirfs or, you know, Quentin Nelson. I even liked Lyle Collins when he was coming out. And then you have more recent guys like Penei Sewell and Tevin Jenkins and, you know, Creed Humphrey and Quinn Miners, all players that I would have taken, the Dolphins could have taken over those times and you know, I prioritize the trenches. So I would have done Christian Wilkins possibly in the second, or at least gone back to the defensive line in the second round with the pick that we gave up for Rosen. I would have taken an offensive lineman in round 1, and then round 3, actually, I was going to take quarterback Will Grier to be as a developmental guy behind, you know, obviously, we got rid of Tannehill in 2019, so in that case, it would have been Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think that would have been far better than trading away a 2nd and a 5th round pick for Josh Rosen. So anyway, and then Isaiah Prince and Chandler Cox no longer on the team. They get Fs. Andrew Van Ginkel gets a B. I can't give him an A, even though he's a 5th round pick, only because he's, you know, I still need to see a lot more well-rounded play from him. He's kind of specific in his abilities. Myles Gaskin, I think a B. You could argue an A primarily because he's a 7th round pick, but, you know, I mean, especially this year, he's shown he's just kind of whatever. So Anyway, these grades are, of course, open and fluid, and as time goes on and so on and so forth, they do change based off of, and like I said, Christian Wilkins, he's working, I think with this year, finally, where he's gotten to, I think he's now a little bit more of, and we're about to get into the actual, stats and stuff for him, but he's actually, I think he's earning his way into the first round. I don't think he's quite, because he was, what was his pick? Oh, he's the 13th overall pick. So I definitely think 13 is a bit high for him. Like I said, I probably would have tried to get him in the second round or, whatever. But he's earning his way up there. Finally, it took a little while, but he's finally earning his way up there. So let's actually start to look into this a little bit. Obviously, he's still with Miami. And let's just take it by year and a quick look at how Christian Wilkins has done. So, number of games, 94. He started 16 and 19, 14 in 2020, and 16 this year. Obviously, he's going to be most likely a starter in this final game of the season. There is one more left to play, as we know. So, he should start all the games this year. Played, and then started is 14 of 16, 12 of 14, and then 16 of 16 this year, so should remain. Now, in his first year, altogether, he's got 1 interception. That came in 2020. Let's see, he's got 10 passes defensed. 2 of them came in his first year, 5 last year, 3 this year, so he's got less interceptions and less passes defense this year than he did last year. He's got 1 forced fumble. That came this year. He's got 2 fumble recoveries, 1 this year and 1 in 2019. Fumble. Oh, no, I think that might be... I don't know what that is. Fumble recoveries, he's got 3, 1 each year. Let's see. And then he's got 7 sacks in total, this being his best year at 3.5, 1.5 last year, 2 in his first year. He's got more tackles than ever. He's got more solo and more assisted. He's got more tackles for loss than he ever has, more quarterback hits. So he has improved. And like I said, I think at this point, he's earned his way to a top second round pick, maybe an early first round pick. But I still think that they reached for him at the 13th overall pick in that draft, especially considering the fact that they had a run on defensive linemen, and it just, especially when, and then you add in the priorities for this Dolphins team, there were other areas like offensive linemen, for example, that had a much higher priority, and we could have gotten blue chip top tier talent at number 13 because there were still players available. So I wasn't a fan of their prioritizing. He is finally starting to, work his way up though to it being worth that pick, but to me still not quite there, and that's why, he gets a B for me overall. Now, let's go ahead and move on, because we have Michael Deiter next. Now, obviously we didn't have a second round pick. Now, Michael Deiter, obviously offensive linemen are a little bit more difficult because unfortunately, I don't have Pro Football, Focus, and, I can't give you like their pass blocking grades and stuff like that. I don't have a subscription because I'm poor. So unfortunately, I can't do that. There's really not going to be a lot to look at here for Michael Deiter. But just real quick, we know, they drafted him. It's taken him 3. First of all, he was absolute trash in his first season. Okay. Absolute hot fucking garbage in his first season. Second season, absolutely fucking nothing from him there. And then it took him till year 3 to finally even sort of kind of find a home. That's now at center. He's missed, a good portion of time with injury. So he's missed, several games. And when he has been in, he's just been kind of okay. Now, he is a 3rd round pick, but, all of that taken into consideration, I bumped him up to a D. I bumped it because he looks like he could next year he's probably going to be the starter at center with the information we've been getting behind the scenes and the rumors and the talk and the conversation that, they're going to go after Deshaun Watson and only maybe get one veteran offensive lineman this offseason, and it's going to be a tackle. So then they're going to go with Michael Deiter and Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson and all these young guys that fucking aren't very good, and Robert Hunt, who is good. They're going to go with all these guys for next year's offensive line. So he probably will be the starter, but he still has a lot for me to prove before I can say that. Now, again, it's ongoing. So, look, if he becomes the starter in 2022 and he has, he starts putting up, more consistent play and whatever, then he can work his way up to, a C, right? He's got to get there, though, and he's not there yet for me. And he still has a lot, first of all, he's got to be the fucking starter consistently for longer than just like half of a season. And then he actually has to have, some production and help this line not be the worst that exists, right, in the NFL. So, anyway, I think it's a pretty fair grade. I think the upgrade from an F to a D is fair. I think he deserves that slight bump, but really nothing more than that. All right, Andrew Van Ginkel, let's take a look at him. Now, he was a 5th-round pick, right? So from where he was drafted, we've gotten some pretty solid production for him. And what did I put? I gave him a B. Right? So I gave him a B. He's got a B. But again, he's kind of limited in what they can do with him. And just like most of our linebackers, they're really only good in minor run support and, if that even, like Jerome Baker tends to get washed out in run support a lot, and so do some of these other guys. They're really just off the ball blitzing linebackers, and that's where Van Ginkel and Jerome Baker really excel at. Those two guys in particular, right? And so, but look, I mean, he's had 38 games, started 25 of them. He's got 11 passes defensed, pretty solid, right? But that's because he's up on the line of scrimmage a lot, and either he's blitzing or coming in for pressure, or if he's not able to do that, then he does what a defensive lineman does, and if he realizes he can't get home, he tries to get in the passing lane, and he has been successful at that, right? Because they're not having him out in coverage and shit, where him and Jerome Baker tend to struggle. He has 4 forced fumbles, pretty solid. And again, I think he's got the 2 fumble recoveries. He's got 1 touchdown, right? 9.5 sacks. Now, he does have more sacks last year still at 5.5 to the 3 this year, but he could have had more if they were certainly blitzing him and these young safeties and doing their exotic looks in the first half of the season. The defense could have been phenomenal all year if they would have done that. Obviously, they didn't. Good number of tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 33 quarterback hits. So pretty solid, man, pretty solid. Like, again, I think he deserves a B. I think his especially for the round that he was taken in, but his limitations prevent me from giving him an A. So, hate me if you want. I know there are some people out there that are like super Andrew Van Ginkel fans and whatever and whatever, but like, I think a B is fair. I'm just saying. Anyway, Isaiah Prince, so he seems to be with Cincinnati this year, so he is still in the league. Now, I gave him an F for us, and since his time elsewhere, let's see, Cincinnati, I don't know. I mean, we got rid of him a while ago. Like, we actually cut him in 2019, and it looks like the Bengals did pick him up off of waivers in 2019, and it looks like he's been there ever since. But I don't think he's starting for them. I think he's just hang on. Let's see. He actually hang on. In 2021, he actually has played 14 games and started 3, as it turns out. Now, again, for, offensive linemen, it's really hard because I don't have, like, PFF stuff. But, look, I mean, with the Cincinnati Bengals in 2021, He has 14 games played. He's started 3 of them, so obviously in a very limited role. But the Cincinnati Bengals have been really good this year. So, hey, you might even be able to upgrade his, grade after leaving the Dolphins to a D. And I'm gonna, because he is still in the league. And he is with a really good team, as it turns out, who are having success. And it looks like he's actually even, been inserted there a little bit as potentially part of that success. So I'm still gonna leave his grade for the Dolphins with an F, because we cut him like immediately. We cut him in 2019, so we didn't get anything for him. But hey, I'm actually a little surprised by that. But hey, good for him, right? Good for him. All right, moving on, Chandler Cox. Now, we cut Chandler Cox in 2020, as it turns out. But yeah, I mean, and as you can see, not really much here. I gave him an F too. There's really not much here. He's 21 games, 6 started, 2 targets, 2 receptions for 9 yards. I mean, what is there, right? Obviously, we didn't get like anything out of him. And let's see. And it does not look like he's with any other teams, because he doesn't have anything for this year. Yeah, and it just looks like January 4th. It says we waived him January 4th of 2021. So I guess maybe so it was just after the new year in 2021. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't been here in a minute. Hasn't gotten anything from or for us. And it doesn't look like he's even with any other team. So I think, the F stands. And we move on, because that's really about it for him. So not much there. Myles Gaskin. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just want to point out though, so I think it's worthy of mentioning. I'm not ashamed of this. This is, as I mentioned at the top, I'm trying to get better and better at this. Like, I don't really know I don't remember a lot about where these guys came from or how they performed in their schools, because I haven't yet delved in that deep, and I'm only starting to really, this season is where I'm going to start, this off season is where I'm going to start really getting my feet wet there and actually start to dive in a little bit more into actual scouting from the college level. So I apologize for my lack of knowledge and expertise on the previous and what they've done prior to coming to the NFL and so on and so forth. So it's hard to give, it's difficult for me to give an in-depth, nuanced evaluation of who they were prior to coming to the NFL, what their expectations could have been, and then how they performed since they've gotten here. But Myles Gaskin, as you can see, 33 games, 17 started, 350 rushes for 1,330 yards, 7 touchdowns, decent production, and 7th round pick. I think it's fair enough to give him a B. You could argue an A simply because you've gotten good production. He's still with the team. Good enough production from a 7th round pick. But again, he's still kind of limited. Obviously, he's proven to not be a number 1 guy. We still need help. And I mean, Duke Johnson and Phillip Lindsay have surpassed him on the depth chart at this point. So, we'll see if he ends up getting phased out, but still pretty good production. And I think a solid B is worth it there for him. So anyway, like I said, I apologize again for not being as knowledgeable as I probably would like to be and should be for this stuff, but I am trying to work on that. I am trying to evolve and get better. I have been over the past few years, and I'm going to start really diving in even deeper this year to improve that knowledge, that skill set base, and, for the content that I provide you guys. So anyway, with that, I am going to wrap this up, though. It was, just a quick run through of the 2019 draft. Overall, and obviously you could tell even my grading is pretty basic still at this point, and my analysis, even though I've been pretty intuitive so far in my first couple seasons with this, I obviously still have a lot of work to do, and when it comes to really upping my evaluation game. So I am working on that, and I hope hope you guys appreciate it, right? And I hope you guys like what I have to say and my takes, and hopefully I can continue to improve and get better and provide better and better quality content for you guys. So with that, let me wrap up. Before I get out of here, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports app, the new fan-driven sports app for all your sports, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like, they got it, and they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself, as well as providing you with an arena to dispute and moan about all of the terrible officiating, because it is so terrible. So make sure you look for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I am gonna get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as on Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.